Hi, this is Dave from G4 Guitar in Lake Forest, and in this video lesson we're going to be taking a look at chord transitions. And how do I transition from one chord to the other? I've learned some chords. I know a C chord, I know an A minor chord, a G chord, a D7 chord. Okay. But now what I'm going to be doing is I want to learn how to put these into a song. And to do that, I need to make the changes between those chords as smoothly as possible. So how do I do that, and what can I do to actually practice that and become more efficient in the chord changes? So we're going to look at something which I call pivot points, okay? Whereby I'm going to look at the change between one chord to another and see which fingers I need to move, which fingers I need to move the least, and try and work out an anchor point, or what I would call a pivot point, to help me make the move from one chord to the other. Okay, so let's take the example. Let's take C. Here's my C chord, and I'm going to transition that on. The next chord in my progression would be A minor. Okay, so in any chord transition you need to make, we want to use what's called economy of movement. So we want to move the fingers as least as possible, and we want to keep the fingers as close to the fretboard as possible. So if you look at my fingers here, okay, they're not coming too far out from the fretboard when I make the change. When I make the change to A minor, my fingers are staying relatively close to the strings on the fretboard. Okay, so let's examine the C to the A minor change. So if I take my C chord and I look at that change to A minor, okay, it's very similar. And what happens is I'm going to take my third finger, which is up here on the 3rd fret 5th string, playing my C note, okay, and I'm going to move it and tuck it underneath my second finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, so it's pressing down on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Okay, and if you refer to the chord diagrams in the teaching manual, okay, you'll see the chord patterns. Okay, but what happens is, to make that change, my first finger here on the C note on the 1st fret 2nd string and my second finger on the 2nd fret 4th string do not need to move. So I'm only going to move that third finger, okay, from where it is on the 3rd fret 5th string over to its new position, 2nd fret on the 3rd string. Okay. So for my C to A minor chord, I've got two pivot points, okay, or anchor points, that I can always rely on to guide the finger that's moving into position. Okay, so now moving on, if I want to now change from that A minor chord, let's say to the D7 chord, okay, let's examine that. So if I look at the chord diagrams and I take a look at the A minor chord, okay, and I'll take a look at the D7 chord, what you'll find is there's one note in common between both chords, and that's the C note, okay, played on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, which is held down in both chords by the 1st finger. Okay, 1st fret 2nd string is my C note, and that note is common in A minor, and it's also common in the D7 chord. So in changing between my A minor to the D7 chord, my first finger doesn't need to move. It becomes a pivot or an anchor point, so I can actually move from A minor to D7, okay, with the economy of movement that I'm only moving my 2nd and my 3rd finger, okay, from the A minor into the D7 position. Okay, so we've gone from our C chord, where two fingers stay in place, okay, and I move that 3rd finger into position. Now I go to the D7 chord, where one finger stays in place, and I move those two other fingers 2 and 3, into position. Okay. Now, our last change we'll look at for this video is we're going to change to a G chord. Okay. So if we examine D7 to G, the first thing you'll see is that every finger has to move. Okay, there's no short way around it. Every finger's got to move to a different fret on a different string. Okay, so the way to look at it is to say which finger has to move the least. Okay, and in this case, when I play D7, it's going to be my 3rd finger, which is playing my 2nd fret on the 1st string. Okay, D7 here's that finger number 3, pushing down on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So what I can do is, as an anchor point, after playing D7, I can take that 3rd finger, okay, slide it up, keep it in contact with the string, don't lose contact with the string, keep it on that string, slide it up to 1 fret to the G note found on the 3rd fret of the top E string, the 1st string. So I'm moving from this note here, D7, up to the 3rd fret on the top E string, G, okay, which forms part of my G chord. Now, with that anchor point moved up 1 fret, staying in contact with the neck and the string, it becomes a very strong pivot anchor point, so that fingers 2 and 3 in my G chord, when they come down with my 1st finger on the 2nd fret 5th string and the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret 6th string, those 2 fingers have a very solid foundation to find their home. Okay, so from D7 I slide up 1 fret with my 3rd finger and put my 2nd and 1st finger down in position and play the G chord. Okay, so let's recap. I take my C chord, I leave 2 fingers in position to become an anchor point and move my finger 3, this guy here, over to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. Okay, moving from A minor to D7, I leave my 1st finger down on the 1st fret 2nd string and move fingers 2 and 3 from where they are in A minor to the position they need to be for D7. And that first finger on the 1st fret 2nd string becomes the pivot or the anchor point. Moving from D7 to G, I take my 3rd finger from the 2nd fret on the top E string from D7, keeping it in contact with the string, slide it up to the 3rd fret on the 1st string, which is my G note. So I'm going to slide from here up to here. Okay, that's my pivot and anchor point. And now I can put my fingers 2 and 3 down to become the G chord. Okay, so that is what I call pivot points or anchor points, and economy of movement when learning how to change between chords. So the way I would practice this, okay, would be to count 4 beats between each chord, strum the chord on the downbeat of the 1st beat, and then change to the next chord on the downbeat of the 2nd beat. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4 to A minor, 1, 2, 3, 4 to D7, 1, 2, 3, 4 going to G, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And practice it in that way, so that leaving that space gives you enough time to think about the movement of the chords, think about where the fingers are going to go, remembering the pivot points we're talking about, and that will improve the ability to change chords more smoothly. Okay, once you're happy with that, you can maybe strum 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're strumming every 2 beats of those 4 beat counts. Okay, so I hope this is useful. If you have any questions, drop me a line and we can talk about it in our lessons, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video lesson. Take care. Bye bye.